Take the fore top gallant yard and attach the foot ropes or the horses as shown in stage 104. Tie a 700mm length of 0.25mm natural thread to the centre of the yard, wrapping it around the yard twice. Feed the tie through the upper hole in the fore top gallant just below the octagonal collar. Drop the tie down through the hole in the fore top and secure it to the pin second from the left port side in the rack behind the foremast, pulling the yard up as high as it will go. Take a 700mm length of thread to form the lift rope. Tie one end to the top gallant between the two pairs of blocks. Take the thread down through the block on the end of the yard and double it back up against itself. Take the thread up through the block on the mast, then repeat steps 1 to 3 on the other side of the model to rig the other side. Now tie both threads off to the 5th shrouds on the foretop, making sure that the yard is set level, and then seal and trim the knots. Tie the block to the main topmast stay just below the main mast cross trees. Feed the end of the thread through the block on the end of the fore top gallant yard and lead it back on itself. Feed the thread through the block just fitted, then repeat steps 4 to 8 on the other side of the model. Tie both threads to the inner pins on the cockpit rails, making sure that the yard is straight, then secure the threads with just a half hitch as there are more threads to be fastened to these pins. Rigging the mizzen. Tie 300mm lengths of thread just above both blocks on the end of the driver boom. Lace each of these threads to one of the single blocks on the outboard eye bolts on the taffrail. Feed the thread through the block on the taffrail, back through the block hanging from the boom, and finally secure the thread to the eye bolt itself. Tie a 5mm single block to some thread, leaving 150mm tail. Tie this to the gaff boom next to the double block so that the block hangs down a little over 80mm from the boom. Tie a 550mm length of thread to the block and thread it to the unused outer block mounted on the taffrail in the same way as step 2. Repeat steps 3 to 4 on the other side of the rail. Then tie a 650mm length of the thread to the end of the driver boom and lead it diagonally up the sail. Thread it through the single block just below the mizzen mast cap. Then feed the thread down the holes in the sides of the mizzen top and secure the thread to the first belaying pin on the mizzen mast. Repeat steps 5 to 7 on the other side of the model. Securing the staysails. You can omit these lines if you are making a bare spars model, but you may wish to fit the eye bolts as shown here. Fitting the mainsail. Use 0.25mm thread except where otherwise stated. For the bare spars option, omit steps 2 and 3. Carefully insert the yard between the mast and the rigging already fitted. Then lash the double blocks and triple blocks together using the gear fowls. Raise the yard so that the blocks are almost touching. Tie the yard sling using the same method you used on the foreyard in stage 105. Then make up and fit a parallel using the same method as used for the foreyard in stage 105. Tie the gear falls off to the eye bolts either side of the main mast. Make the yard tackle pendant by fitting a double block to the end of the yard on a 60mm tail. Make the inner tricing line by tying a 900mm length of thread to the eye bolt behind the 5th and 6th dead eyes. Release 2 or 3 of the dead eyes for easy access. Lash the yard tackle pendant to the block behind the 5th and 6th dead eyes using the inner tricing line and securing the free end underneath the 6th dead eye. Replace the dead eye lashings when you have finished this thread. Cut an 850mm length of thread to make the lift. Tie this to the eye bolt on the mast cap. Then run the thread to the outer block on the end of the yard, passing it through whichever gap in the shrouds gives the thread a straight run, as you did on the foremast. Take the thread back through the block on the mast cap and then repeat steps 16 to 18 on the other side of the model. Take the threads down and secure them to the 4th belaying pins on each side of the model. Tension both threads at the same time so the mast blocks are pulled evenly. Adding the forecastle guns. Construct the 2 guns in the same way as the previous guns, following the instructions in stage 14. However, it is not necessary to add any eye bolts or rigging to their carriages. Glue the guns to the forward deck using superglue.